fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got rid of the outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson! Anderson's up to
Oh my god!
big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, there we go!
Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?
Week 9, the final third of the championship, the crawl towards the end. The points have been racking up, but now you start talking drop rounds. Now you start talking about every single point coming into fruition. You now talk about, well, where's your next little game? Where's your in up the ladder? What's the next brass ring that you need to grab? This is Barcelona. This is a track which drivers will know more, probably the most, in terms of this style of circuit. It's one of the newer ones on iRacing sphere, but what it does bring is a whole heap of challenge in mid to late speed as we welcome you to a SimSpeed TV presentation of coverage brought to you here on the SimSpeed YouTube channel, on Facebook, and as well on Twitch as well. I am Jake Sperry, joined alongside by Mr. Cameron Dance, as usual, Jay Kennedy on the cameras for this one. But now this becomes a very interesting challenge for the way that this season is going to be running in terms of drivers, in terms of actually notable names who are not at the dance for this one today. Cam, so we're talking about this. The championship leader is MI&A.
Yes, he is. He appears to not be present today here at Barcelona, so this championship is gonna have been blown open a little bit by the fact that Marco is MIA, like you said. So the likes of SANFILIPPO, STEFAN, all the others really going to be taking advantage of this because it's going to give them an extra opportunity to score some big points and take advantage of the MIA of Marco.
Well, that's going to be key here. The big point that are not there and are not available here today. We will see how that will all play out as qualifying currently underway. 8 minutes, 2 lap scores to get those qualifying times in. Danilo Sanfilippo is currently top of the timing stands at the moment on a 1:19.6 here today. It's evening conditions. It's just gone 7 o'clock in sim time, but more crucially than that, at the moment, track temp 24 degrees. It's going to be cold. It's going to be a tough challenge. Nicholas Short goes to second position, but you've got other drivers in this field who could make challenges here late on in this season, one of whom who's had 2 drop rounds used already this season. That is the number 4 machine making his way up through turn number 12, and that, of course, is Chris Owen.
Yeah, certainly. Chris has had a bit of an average start to the season, unfortunately. Got caught up in a few incidents or made some mistakes with it. So we'll see what happens here today at Barcelona. He had not too bad of a run at Indianapolis, thankfully, so he's managed to recover some points. But we'll see what happens here at Barcelona. Obviously, reasonably easy track to get around here, but P1 straight to the top, so clearly put his foot down.
Yep, a 1:19.4. Great lap time by Chris Owen, who needs results, who hasn't found them. Danilo Sanfilippo moves up to second, jumps brother Marco, going through Jody Mills. He gets himself up into 6th position. Great time there by those standards. Jan Hoffmann also jumping up the order, goes to 10th place at the moment. That was a good result from him moving up there through the orders. He's got a few drivers yet to set times, like Stefan PIOTROWSKI, Jaden Thurlow. Those drivers will be looking to try and put some times in. Small grid size as well, 21 drivers. That's going to be crucial here in these stages, Cam, because, of course, the gaps between points rise and widen the less drivers there are in the session.
Yeah, certainly. And also, obviously, the less strength of field there is, the less points on offer. So you've really got to kind of work it out in terms of, well, am I going to get enough points here, or am I going to be more or less just trying to counter drop round sort of thing? So, but regardless, you've got to go out there and make sure you get as many points as you possibly can, because you never know at the end of the day whether the likes of the drop rounds are going to affect you too much. And Marcus Sanfilippo straight to the top by not by a lot. And Chris Owen's about to come across the line. He goes even quicker.
1:19.1. Chris Owen putting down the gauntlet knowing he's got to fight from underneath here in the championship. We will see how this one works. They move on forward. Drivers like Andreas Nielsen sets a time, goes to 9th position. Overall, Ray Griffioen has one more lap available in the back pocket at the moment. Here's car 21, final car in the field. Esteban Oliveira at the moment looking to try and improve on a 1:21.9 as he will try and push over to the line. He's currently 19th out of 19 times set, and he does improve onto a 21.7, but not crucially with position out on track. That's going to be key here today. John Pat Kelly goes 14th on a 1:20.5, and Stefan Piotrowski making his way through New Holland and over to the line. Short burst over to that line, and a 1:20.1 will help proceedings up to the 5th row. 9th position will be a good bonus for what is a good time. So only one driver now available, Cam, to set a lap time, but will be out of time to go and set that lap because, of course, Ray Griffioen has only a minute 20 seconds to get around and set his flying lap time. And, of course, he's only just come out of pit road, so he is going to be in no position to go and finish a lap.
Yeah, unfortunately, once that clock hits 0, you're pretty much out of time, and it's game over from that point, and session ticks over. So he's unfortunately not going to be able to get a lap in here as Griffioen, but nevertheless, Chris Owen putting it on pole by 2/10 over Marco Sanfilippo. That's a pretty reasonable margin to have over the Sanfilippo brothers.
Absolutely it is. So we can get confirmation then of how the grid is going to stack then for this event at Circuit de Barcelona-Catalunya. This is how the field looks. Chris Owen on pole position, 1:19.196. Joined by Marco Sanfilippo alongside. Danilo starts this one from 3rd position, knowing that he needs big results now from now to the end of the season because of his consistency value. Matthew Howard, a great qualifying by him. He goes to 4th place on a 19.7. Nicholas Short starts 5th with Jody Mills alongside in 6th, and car 7 starts in 7th. That's Stefan Chantal, the Canadian, looking to make that push. Jose Serpa starts in 8th place with Stefan Piotrowski 9th, and Andreas Nielsen rounds out the top 10.
And on row 6, it's going to be Jan Hoffman and Clayton McLeod, followed by Alex Ugia and Adam Webb. Row 8 going to be John Pat Kelly and David Cudmore. Jane Thurlow and Steve Urey on row 9. Thurlow a little bit down the order in qualifying today, but nevertheless going to be doing okay down there, and we'll see where he comes in the race. Esteban Oliveira in 19th and rounding out the top 20. Ray Griffioen before Jan Strutinsky rounding out the field.
It's a long run turn number 1 here. They start pretty much just out of the final corner here at Circuit de Barcelona-Catalunya, and they will make that push down towards the right, left, right, which is turns 1, 2, and 3. And it's all about getting a good launch here in these vehicles if you are to get it going. It's not the widest track in the world here on the front stretch. You've got yourself maybe 4 wide if you're incredibly brave in these styles of vehicles, but they all know that you've got to leave just enough room if you are going to be aggressive in the early stages. 2 minutes to grid up, or you start from that dreaded place known as pit road, and pit road can be a pitfall for some. Other times it can be a blessing. Start from near the back and make that push forward and try and make sure that every result is going to work. Worth noting that Marco Sanfilippo will improve his championship score and take the championship lead overall. If he can improve on a 6th place finish, being 2nd right now, certainly should seem to do so. At the moment, Danilo Sanfilippo needs anywhere between 2nd and 5th to improve his scores in the championship. It's looking more like a 2nd or 3rd is needed today in terms of the strength of field. Chris Owen needs anything to improve. He's used 2 of his 4 drop rounds already, and he's looking for everything that he needs to here in this race as the green flag dropped, and let's get ourselves underway. Chris Owen gets an okay start, but Marco Sanfilippo's better. Struggles on the 3rd row from Nicholas Short. He will drop back, and Marco's going to be challenged every step of the way. Here comes Howard as well, looking to the inside, 2 wide, 2 deep. Into turn number 1 they go, and Marco Sanfilippo has the position. Owen runs wide. Howard now looks to push for 3rd position. Marco with a huge gap going on, all clean through the opening stage. They head up towards turn number 4 almost immediately at this point in time, and at this moment it is Marco Sanfilippo head and shoulders above the rest.
Oh, Short's back.
Big incident there in the middle of the pack going on. I believe it was around Short that it happened. Short, who had a poor start, goes around.
Yeah, really, really unfortunate for Nicholas Short there, and it was
Hoffmann.
contact with Jose Serpa, and Hoffman's also involved.
Yep, Hoffmann's gone around as well at the next corner of Elf Corner, so he's had an incident all on his own, having a spin there on the cold tyres. Cold tyres, always going to be difficult in the early stages, but dramas then through turns 4, turns 5, but the front is clean at this moment in time. Oh, little lock up there from PIOTROWSKI as he was, sorry, CHANTAL even, as he was trying to get onto the back of Jody Mills. Moving through this next right-hander, it wasn't quite close enough, but you can tell that these drivers are looking to be aggressive in the early stages. 44 laps here today around this track, and they're racing like it's lap 43.
Yes, certainly. Nobody's leaving anything on the table at the moment. They were 2 by 2, 4 rows deep back on lap 1 through the first 2 turns, so everybody clearly pushing extremely hard, but nevertheless, Sanfilippo's put a big gap out.
Cudmore's been turned around at the final corner. It was Jan Hoffmann who's helped him about there. They were too wide through the final chicane. And ultimately, Cudmore just about starting to get things going once more. Short down on the lane at the moment with the damage that he has accrued. That could be a retirement we've got, as we're going to get a replay brought to you by Motum Simulation on the start then here of this event, and it was a pretty egregious one through turns 2, 3, 4, but it was crucial for Marco Sanfilippo to get the best start possible right now. Nicholas Short here, well, he got a poor start and then it just got worse here, Cam.
Yeah, certainly. Didn't get a good launch, did the car of Nicholas Short. Just sort of struggled with wheel spin a bit off the line and just ended up falling back quite a little bit just behind Chantal as well. So just on the edge of the top 10, unfortunately. A few corners later came to blows with the car of Jose Serpa, who just seemed to outbrake himself a little bit into turn at number 3 and just really made contact, unfortunately, and that was it.
Yep, they can see the contact in that one. Hurt a whole lot, and then this is what happens to Jan Hoffmann through the next corner here as he hits the brakes and looks for the left. As you can see, just locks up the fronts and round he goes. Where he stops, nobody knows. Chris Owen, fastest lap of the race then, that last time by 121.456, and on to lap 3 then of this event. Sanfilippo, Owen, Howard, Sanfilippo, your top 4 as things stands at the moment. Good battle pack though happening in your midfield right now, because you've got Jose Serpa, then you've got Adam Webb, Clayton McLeod, Jaden Thurlow, who's up 7 places off of the start. He's already inside the top 10. Then you've got PIOTROWSKI, Aquia's in there, and then John Pat Kelly trying to stay on the train, but just struggling to do so right now. This train back is going to be where it's key. Of course, with no DRS in these vehicles for Formula 1 cars, they were made the season before DRS came in, but they do have curves, and they'll be tactically deploying it around this circuit, a track which is all about trying to stay within a second. Dirty air effect is huge around here as McLeod pushes in on Webb.
Yeah, McLeod really trying to get the draft advantage here down the back straight, but not going to be long enough to try and do it. He'll probably get a move done into turn 1 at this time by, obviously, with the long straight that the front straight is, and we'll see whether he can indeed get a move is Clayton McLeod, but nevertheless, trying to stay within that 1 second is really difficult through some of these high speed sections where you've got the likes of Aerobush looking at.
Well, we'll see how it plays out, though, as they move on forward in this race. It's going to be a tall order for a few drivers to go out there and get the passes done that they need, but the draft here is strong, and they can make the moves like Alex Aguirre is doing right now. PIOTROWSKI's going to force him hard to the inside here, but he moves back onto the racing line to try and cover the outside line here through this section. They can see just sweeping through with a whole boatload of confidence there was PIOTROWSKI. He knew how to defend it, but look at how much it's costed him trying to defend. He's now outside of a second of Jaden Thurlow.
Yeah, certainly is. He's pulled quite a gap at the moment to the car of Thurlow, and Thurlow actually not having too bad of a start as well off that start. Remember, he started all the way down to 17th, so he's managed to gain quite a few places already, and he's on the charge to try and catch up to that front bunch. He's already doing reasonable lap times, not quite matching the leaders at the moment, but probably getting held up a little bit here by this pack ahead.
That's going to be crucial as well. If you're being held up around here, it's so tough to actually get close and really get into a position to attack because of that dirty air that becomes so vital around this place. So maybe this is one of the few tracks around this calendar that we see, Cam, where we are going to be talking about strategy and undercutting and overcutting and trying to get some clean air to put some fresh laps in. And maybe, just maybe, it might be the case where running behind a driver today is not going to be the way that you go out and win these sorts of races. out here on the track. So we'll see how this one works. McLeod again trying to close in here on Adam Webb, trying to get close. You can see he tucks up underneath, thinks about a dive to the inside, trying to make a mistake out of Adam Webb, but he's simply put not finding it at the moment. So again, the waiting game becomes a vital part of the way that this race is run, as well as this one in the backfield. Hoffman and Fury going at it at the moment.
Yes, certainly. But the battle for P3 and P2 is really actually on, and SANFILIPPO's managed to get by Howard, who's dropping off a little bit here, making a little bit of pace.
This has happened through turn 3. Oh, it was a slide. It was a slide from Matthew Howard. Get a replay of this. Through turn 3, the back steps out. He's able to catch it, but at the cost of a position. So you can see there, he's already got through. It was all at turn number 3. Let's go on board and see how much wheel work he has to do in that Williams, that Toyota Williams FW31 as they hit the brakes into the right of 1, the left of 2, and it'll be here at turn 3 where you find it, and you're going to see it right about now. Back steps out, has to hit the brakes, and there's the position gone.
Yeah, it can all change just as quickly as that, and just actually a very strange slide, and possibly a little bit too much on the power on the exit, and just, yeah, that was a very, very strange spin considering how stable he was through the previous 2 corners.
Well, Jan Hoffmann's also had himself an issue. He is out at the moment, so this is what's happened to him on the brakes. Into Lekaixa, turn 10, carries way too much speed, and then he gets run into from behind there as he was going at a rate of knots, and really frustrated I think he was there as Andreas Nielsen it was who ran into him. I think that he's called that a day done, because he's run into 3 separate incidents inside of the opening 5 laps of this race, and it has pretty much put a dent in terms of what he was trying to do, and that is frustrating for a driver with so much talent that Jan Hoffmann has, who really struggled today and effectively say after 5 laps, this isn't worth my time anymore.
Yes, certainly. He's had a bit of a rough season as Jan Hoffmann, having a few various different issues, such as this one today, unfortunately. So, gonna call it a day. It will be Jan Hoffmann, unfortunately. But yeah, that battle for 3rd at the moment still actually going on quite nicely, and Howard not letting SANFILIPPO get away.
Keeping him very honest at this point in time, as is Jody Mills in 5th position. I know quite a few YouTubers have been having a little look at what Jody Mills has been able to do here on the iRacing sphere. I've seen the likes of WTF1's Matt Gallagher, Alex Gillen is in here watching as well, so he's going to be having a good eye on Jody Mills as a good friend of theirs. He pushes on forward all the way back from the Apex Online racing days, so we'll see what Jody Mills is going to be capable of doing right now. But you can see here the likes of so many making pushes in the mid-pack. Acquia, PIOTROWSKI, McLeod, Durlow, Adam Webb. 5-car train going on for 8th place. This top 10 fight, PIOTROWSKI, who looks closest to make a move at the moment on a Clayton McLeod, who is needing results here today. He needs probably around 11th place upwards here if he needs to find some places. He's currently in 9th, but he's someone who has been up there fighting for podiums this season. This is a little down the order from McLeod.
Yeah, he seems to be struggling a little bit and just making some very minute errors that are dropping him back. He did get passed on the previous lap, well, actually on this lap as they came into turn 1 by the car of Jane Thurlow. He used the drive very, very well to get the move done. So we'll see whether PIOTROWSKI is going to possibly get on by McLeod, or whether McLeod's going to be able to hold on to this one. And not too far behind is Alex Ugia as well.
Well, that's going to be the key here. It's all about, can you put yourself in position to go out there and overtake here as they head to lap 8 of the event at the moment. The gap at the front, 1.5 seconds for Marco SANFILIPPO. Chris Owen pulls in 2:10 over that last time 5. But look at this right now. Clayton McLeod and Stefan PIOTROWSKI, they have changed positions. But look at this coming back. It was a mistake through the chicane, which costed McLeod, and into turn 1, not going to find it. So PIOTROWSKI picks up another, and you won't find many mistakes out of Clayton McLeod, but there was a prime example of one.
Yeah, and he's done that 2 laps in a row now, actually, having a little bit of a slide into the final chicane. It seems to be one of his struggling points at the moment, just trying to get the power down, and it's just so easy to do out of such a slow corner as well, where you're trying to get your power back to 100% as quickly as possible for a nice run into that front straight, but he just clearly doesn't have the ability to do that at the moment, does Clayton McLeod.
Well, you can see he's now going to be dropping back towards Alex Acquia at this point in time, as Idria at this point needs to know that he needs to gain some places. He's 8th overall in the championship is Alex, so he's got a lot riding on this race. This is the big soft race that they've tried to go and get to, so we'll see how this one all plays into a factor for this at the moment. But the battle is still on, 4th and 5th. Howard looking backwards to Jody Mills, and this has been a factor of how Matthew Howard's been racing. Remember, he's in Division 4 in iRacing. iRacing splits drivers into divisions. If you're in the top division, you are division number 1, and then you go all the way back down to Division 10, and that is based on your iRating. To be in Division 4, just to put that into perspective, Cam, I'm Division 4.
Yes, so he's, and so is Jay even, so I'm probably the oddball one out being in Division 1, but nevertheless, he's doing a fantastic job actually for the fact that he wouldn't be the most experienced one of the lot, but Cudmore at the moment having a bit of a battle further back, and actually no, having a bit of a moment.
A big moment through the final corner, gets over the curb, the back steps out, and he goes spread eagle sideways, just dipping the wheels into the gravel, but able to keep going down at the back of the field by some margin. They're in 19th place here in this race. So it's a long road back for David Cudmore at this point in time. But you still got these battles going on, and it's all about Thurlow at the moment, who is up 8 places in this race, and it could be 9 if he stays close enough to Adam Webb for the front stretch. Jose Serpa's not a million miles away either, 1.1 seconds down the road, keeping maybe a fringe of the draft there for Adam Webb, but through the chicane you can see Thurlow desperate to put the power down. He's got a fantastic run through this section, and surely this is prime pickings here towards turn number 1. Over the start finish line they'll go, side by side, and maybe he was a little bit too close slightly there with Thurlow. He's now got to be committed here on the brakes for years to get this one done. On the brakes he goes, so much more commitment, and he even subscribed to the Commitment Service Plus, and he's got the move done. Slight wiggle though through 2 means that Webb could come back.
Yes, certainly. A fantastic move by Thurlow there, and also a really good move up the inside by Alex Ugia on Clayton McLeod. So McLeod falling back even further now, but Webb doesn't seem to have anything to be able to challenge the car of Thurlow at the moment. So another place for Thurlow, and Super not far up the road, and James Thurlow actually quicker that last time by compared to him as well.
Well, that's going to be key here if Thurlow is going quicker than what Jose Serpa is. Serpa's going to have to be looking in the mirrors because he's clearly not catching Stefan Chantal just in front, who is in that 7th or in that 6th position at the moment, +1 for the day, as is Serpa at this moment in time. So that's going to be a tough challenge. Of course, that +1 comes from Nicholas Short's shortcomings, so to speak, pardon the pun, going forward. So we'll see how that one all plays out in the long and the short right now. Gap at the front is, though, coming down, and Chris Owen is taking a 10th off, lap after lap after lap here. Lap 11 of 44, 1/4 distance scored already. Pit stop window, we're looking at, it could be as anything as late as about lap 31 here today, Cam. So a pretty wide window around this place.
Yeah, that is quite the wide window considering the lap race is 44 laps. So we'll see what strategy is for various different drivers. If you're probably buried in a bit of traffic, you're probably better off getting some undercut and trying to use that nice clean air to your advantage to help get some nice quick laps in. But at the same time, you're probably not going to want to pit too early so that you end up losing draft either. So it's going to be probably a matter of just timing it right so you can have someone to draft with, but also not end up getting held up for too long.
Well, drivers don't want to be held up. They don't want to become bogged down and frustrated. And in the words of a legendary football commentator, Clive Tildesley, that's when the chances come. As right now, Matthew Howard is trying to demonstrate with Jody Mills, cars 16 and 15. They are 4th and 5th at this moment in time, and this is going to be key for these sorts of drivers because they're going to get, because this is an iRacing official series, a massive haul of iRating because they are cars 16 and 15. They are on the lower echelons of iRating at the moment, and they will gain a big boost in terms of what they want to get out of this championship.
Yes, certainly. There's not only iRating and safety rating on the line, but there's also those points as well. And Jody and Matthew doing a fantastic job for what would more or less be classed as not so experienced drivers in these cars. We haven't seen them in the top split as of recently, so they're doing reasonably well to actually be running in 4th and 5th at the moment in what is usually a very competitive field.
Well, it is very competitive, and it still is, so to speak. So there is still those battles going on, including this one just behind Clayton McLeod. You've got John Pat Kelly trying to keep honest at the moment and trying to keep himself going forward. But car 21, Estevan Oliveira, his first trip this season into the top split, and he is looking to try and find a way through car 21. Herald from Club Brazil, and of course Brazil has that very, very rich heritage of quick Formula drivers. You talk Ayrton Senna, the late great. You've got Emerson Fittipaldi you can put in there. Felipe Massa can keep going down the list time and time and time again. There has always been a quick Brazilian driver who has been fantastic in this. And if you talk sim racing as well, there is one legendary cameraman who was a world champion at the Grand Prix level in iRacing. That is, of course, Hugo Luis.
Yeah, certainly. There's been a fair few Brazilians that have done their good part for the country to put themselves up the pecking order in terms of Formula racing. Like you said, Hugo Luis in the sim racing world, and also various others in the real world racing. So, yeah, there's clearly a lot of talent that comes out of the South American-based country, and really, Oliveira doing a decent job to try and hunt down John Pat Kelly, just slightly slow that last time by.
Exactly, and that's the key. 122.5 meets a 122.4. So, in fact, he did lose a tenth of a second that last time by gap up to 8 tenths. Here's an interesting story between SANFILIPPO and Chris Owen. Owen's chipping away at the time, 10th by 10th by 10th, but then all of a sudden he puts in a lap like a 121.3 that last time by. That's half a second slower than what he wants, and all of a sudden, someone like Marco Sanfilippo goes and puts his fastest lap of the day, and in fact the fastest lap of the day on a 120.603, and then that gap suddenly from what was 1.3 seconds is 2.1.
Yeah, possible mistake from Owen, just going quick back and having a look really quickly to see if there's anything sort of obvious. And there isn't actually really anything obvious that Chris has possibly done to have a bit of an error. He had a bit of a slide out of the final corner, but it doesn't really make sense that he's lost that much amount of time.
He's lost another 4 tenths, gap now 2.5 seconds, so Marco Sanfilippo is taking full advantage. He needs all the points possible at every race that he can get, and he knows better than anybody else that he needs to start scoring and scoring big, and it's more important now than probably at any point that he needs to start scoring, because you run out of opportunities here. If drivers feel like they are safe on their points, they just won't turn up, they won't race, they'll nerf the strength of the field, and that will always be a big challenge for drivers. More importantly than that as well, Cam, it also pays to have a very good team behind you. Mark and Danilo, both brothers, both part of the same team, but it might be around about now in the championship where if you've got a few guys, you've got 3,000, 4,000 iRating, say, come and race, come and join us right now. We need as much of a strength of field as we can get.
Yes, certainly. That is a very possible tactic for those in slightly bigger teams, and have drivers who have that iRating with the ability to bump the off up a little bit. So it will be interesting to see if anybody uses that tactic at all. Obviously, majority of these drivers not really in very large teams, but the likes of Sanfilippo brothers, I'll probably know a few people, and Chris Owen will as well, to try and bump that soft up as well. So we'll see what happens in these next few weeks, and whether anybody tries and stacks the soft a little bit to help them in terms of points. But nevertheless, still going to be a very close fight.
Of course it will, and it will come down to the wire. The top 3 in the championship coming into this event was split by a very, very small margin indeed. That margin, of course, Cam, was 23 points coming in. And remember, it's Marco who's in a much better position than Danilo. Danilo's been more consistent, but that harms you in drop rounds, because if you score consistently still in an event like this, you still need to try and find points, and you're not going to find many points. You're going to find maybe 5 points here, 5 points there. Someone like Marco, who has a couple of non-finishes to his name and a couple of not brilliant results coming out of a couple of rounds, he knows he can gain 40 points, 50 points in terms of where he needs. He's in a much better position.
Yes, certainly he is, and it's going to probably be all that difference between getting enough points and not having enough points. So you just got to chip away and make sure that you get as many points as you possibly can, especially with these late race rounds with drop rounds, and also with the fact that you're going to have different people like your championship rivals missing.
Exactly, it's got to be key. You must take a capitalization on every result that you can possibly get your hands onto. Issues for Jody Mills over that last lap. The gap was 0.7 of a second. It looks a little bit larger than that now. It was turn 5 where the issues happened as we look at Jaden Thurlow at the moment, also trying to make the progress through the field right now. Mills' gap is now over a second for the first time in this event. That's going to be key as Jose Serpa becomes the first driver in on lap 15. Now that's interesting because he was being caught.
Yeah, I do wonder if he's possibly tried to use that to stop the likes of Thurlow and that getting a little bit of a draft to catch up to him so quicker. So we'll see if that does pay off for Serpa and whether this very early undercut does indeed work. But nevertheless, Thurlow's had a lot of pace, so I imagine it's probably not going to work, but we'll see what happens.
Well, out and away he goes pretty quickly. He'll fall back behind Steve Giori, so that will drop him to 17th position on the road now for car number 6, but he's got a lot of clean air before he reached Giori. He'll be using that to his advantage, of course. They take fuel, they take tyres, and of course 2009 was one of the last seasons, in fact, that they were able to take fuel in their cars before the radical sweeping changes that 2010 also brought into the series. But right now you've got Clayton McLeod on the back of Adam Webb, hoping that there's a position there. And of course Webb has lost a place to Alex Ahuia over the last few laps or so, so Webb is struggling right now, but Clayton McLeod needs to take advantage. For all of the drivers who have gained places, here's one driver who's gone nowhere.
Yeah, he certainly has. He's only gone backwards since the start and just having very minute errors, but it's been enough to just send him further and further back down the order, unfortunately. So not having the best of runs today with the fact that he's dropped a few positions, but isn't doing too bad. He's been about equal with where he started, but he's going for the inside move on Adam Webb finally into turn 1, and job done.
Job done, and there's not much you're going to argue about that one. That was an easy move on Adam Webb, who did not fight back as someone who is up at this stage quite a few places here in this race. He is up 3. Of course, one of those is the pitted Jose Serpa at the moment, down there in 17th position right now. But this is going to be crucial then. Who is going to be best placed for these stops? And it is worth talking about this pit lane here out on track today, because you have to very quickly decide come down onto the lane, and you've got that wall, that pit inside wall on the outside, and there are always memories in my mind when you come down to the pits, you see a wall like that of David Coulthard, 95 at Adelaide, straight into the wall.
Yeah, it certainly creeps up on you very quickly if you go in there a little bit too hot, does it out? So I've fallen victim to that myself on one occasion before, racing with Fonte in the AOC Championship, but nevertheless, it's a very quick pit lane, and you in these sort of Formula cars, you can probably get away with going in there a little bit quicker than you think you can due to the fact that you've got so much downforce, but you're definitely not going to want to hit it, that's for sure.
Definitely don't. Got a nice battle going on though here towards the rear of the field, and here comes the move for Andreas Nielsen, trying to recover down the inside of Ray Griffioen, and Ray's going to give him that one without any argument at all. Ray is someone who knows how to finish races, and that's where he picks up his results, does Ray. And Andreas Nielsen comfortably picking up the run and doing something that he's done for so many races this season, either by his choice or by circumstance, and that is making moves through the field.
Yeah, certainly. Nielsen showing he's got some very good pace to move through the field. Unfortunately, having a few up and down moments to send him to the back, whether it be missing the start or spins or various other sort of things. But nevertheless, he does a fantastic job to end up coming back through the field and getting some reasonable comeback results.
Exactly, and that's going to be the key here towards racing. It's going to be all about who picks up a result and who needs to find out where they are. Andreas Nielsen's consistency through the season is putting him inside the top 10 of the championship, and that's going to be key moving forward. No takers here on lap 19 of the event, so it is very clear that Jose Serpa is going to be on his own at the moment, and he's doing 22.5s on the full tank of fuel, which is no help to him at this moment. Di Chiori in front of him is quicker, and the drivers he was fighting against, the likes of Piotrowski and Thurlow, they are a second a lap quicker.
Yeah, so clearly Super made the choice to get pit a little bit too early, and he's really struggling for pace at the moment. I wonder if he's maybe caught some damage in the earlier part of the race when he had that contact and hasn't been able to get it repaired, but nevertheless, 22-1 that last time by, compared to the likes of Thurlow and that, who were doing 21-4s, so still very much slower.
Very much slower, but guess who's got the bit between their teeth right now? It's Danilo Sanfilippo in third position. He did a 120.6 that last time by, half a second quicker than Chris Owen, 4/10 quicker than Marco Sanfilippo, who just does a 120.5 and goes to be the fastest man of the race once again. Chris Owen also a 120.5 and was even quicker than that. But there's Danilo Sanfilippo, 120.4. That is 3 fastest laps in the space of 5 seconds.
Yeah, that's unbelievable for Sanfilippo to do such quick laps within 16. I mean, no surprise really being Sanfilippo, but it's really bringing that gap down, especially just behind for Danilo. So we'll see whether he can indeed get past Chris Owen, but Chris still doing a pretty good job to hold his own at the moment compared to Danilo.
Well, that's going to be key here in these Toyota Williams FW31s, these 2009 Formula One vehicles making pushes up through the field. Little bit of the grass there on the outside from Danilo. Had to try and settle the rear down, which has been the cause of concern for many drivers with these styles of vehicles over the course of this season. And huge moment for Adam Webb. He has a slide and he's going to drop a place to John Pat Kelly towards turn number 5. That was coming out of turn number 4, trying to put the power down early. The back says no, and ultimately he has to lock up all force, trying to keep it in a straight line.
Yeah, so going to damage those tyres a little bit. Will Adam Webb with that big lockup, trying to keep it straight, and the drop behind John Pat Kelly. Now he's going to be trying to pull away, but Adam Webb hasn't had too bad a pace in this race. Unfortunately, has now lost another place and is dropping off the back of Clayton McLeod. But yeah, it's one of those things about turn 4. Really easy just to be a little bit too eager on that gas, as we've seen.
Exactly, and now it's all about trying to make sure that things are working out when you've got tyres that are starting to maybe fall away a little bit and you're trying to negotiate your way through the track. You cannot afford to make those mistakes that cost you all the time and places, and Adam Webb's going to try and get this one back on John Pat Kelly. He knows he's lost himself maybe 3 seconds with that issue as they head down towards turns numbers 1, 2 and 3 out on track, which are what I would call the money call. Oh no, there's a huge issue for Adam Webb. A massive tank slapper going through, no way to save it.
Yeah, and he's barely kept it off the wall as well somehow. I don't quite know how he's managed to do that, but no damage, thankfully, for Adam Webb. But unfortunately, that's going to be 2 places gone for him now, so he's going to have even more work to try and get back to where he was.
That's the key as well, because he had that spin on the last lap. Those tyres, they really do heat up, and you almost get that hypersensitivity of the tyre cap, and that's where it all falls apart for some drivers, because you get compounded mistakes, one after the other, because you really do need to pretty much dance on your tyres. Pardon the pun. You really do need to dance on the tyres to make sure that you do not heat them up and you do not spin them again.
Yes, certainly. You've really got to look after them very well. You can't lock them up. You can't spin them up. You've got to really just be smooth and look after them very, very well. And Chris Owen with the new fastest lap that last time by, so starting to try and pull away from Danilo now, who's had a nice bit of pace in the recent few laps and has closed that gap down. But Chris Owen really starting to put the hammer down to try and pull away.
But this is the issue here for Chris Owen. You look at his consistency value, his laps have been pretty much wayward. There's 7/10 spread over the last 4 laps. 21.1, 20.5, 20.9, 20.4. You look at how nice and neat Danilo Sanfilippo's times are. They're a lot closer grouped together. 20.6, 20.4, 20.4, 20.5. Those are better lap times from Danilo, and it is that volatility right now which is hurting Chris Owen. He cannot find that groove. Yes, he's the fastest man on track. Yes, he's got the best 1-lap pace, but he can't do it lap after lap at the moment.
Yeah, he's just struggling for a little bit of consistency at the moment, is Chris Owen, although that's here last time by, he just did a 20.459, so there's clearly some consistency possibly there. But Danilo's just gone even quicker.
20.347, what a lap time that is, and he makes it the fastest lap of the day today. So that's going to be crucial. And in from 4th place then comes Matthew Howard on lap 23 to make it stop just after the halfway stage of the race. And that's going to be crucial here in terms of the way he's going. He's going to split the stint 50-50.
Yeah, it's not a bad option to split it half and half, sort of, especially so you can get sort of an even distribution in terms of tyre wear and fuel load and not have to worry about either going too long or going too short. So not a bad idea to come down at the midway point, but nevertheless, we'll see where Howard comes on out.
Oh, here comes Nielsen. He's going to just take the inside away from Matthew Howard. And this is disaster. He's come out right in the middle of traffic. And when you're driving out there on your own, what makes life so very, very difficult, Cam, in order to make these results happen, is the fact that you absolutely 100% need clean air if you're out there to go and attack. Yes, draft can help, but around this place, you don't want to be drafting around when the dirty air really hurts and you need as much clean air as possible. That is where Matthew Howard has made the mistake of not calculating where he's going to come out. Wide, actually, there has gone Jaden Thurlow. He's lost the place to Piotrowski, and he's done that all on his own down at Lekaiks at turn 10.
Yeah, and looks like he's just gone on the power a little bit too early. Has Thurlow just... Oh, no, he's actually got over the curb and pretty much just sent himself wide. So, unfortunately, that's going to be another position gone for Thurlow and comes in. But talking about the car of Howard, it's actually not that bad of a deal because Nelson and that ahead of him going to be on lower fuel. They're going to be slightly quicker as well, so he's not going to have too much of a worry about in terms of aero push, but nevertheless he's really got to work this very, very hard, and he's going to be racing Mills out of the pit lane and has jumped it.
Yep, and that was crucial. He was ahead anyway, so he just makes sure he manages that gap. Chantal coming out of the pits as well. Will come out Jaden Thurlow and Alex Ahuya at the moment. Estevan Oliveira and Ray Griffioen in, as well as Jan Stratinsky. But it is on second and third. Danilo Sanfilippo runs wide though. He got that gap down to 0.8 of a second. A horrible lap from Chris Owen at 21.2 was 0.8 of a second slower, and they've got that traffic. So getting caught behind the traffic, Chris Owen dives down into the lane. That was Steve Giori he needed to get by. Chris Owen becomes one of the first to dive down of your real race contenders here today. So that's going to be key. Ray Griffioen away, but Chris Owen is in.
Yeah, smart move there by Chris Owen to get into the pits ASAP with the fact that he had the car of Steve Giori holding him up a little bit out of that final corner. For Sanfilippo decides to stay out, which possibly could help him, but at the same time it might not. We'll see what happens. And Griffioen with the slow pit stop that last time, but it looked like it had a front wing change involved. But also Jane...
This is interesting right now. So Stefan Piotrowski here is yet to come down in and make a stop. In terms of where he's come out here, Chris Owen, he's got a little bit of clean air. He's got Piotrowski a few seconds down the road, Clayton McLeod a few seconds behind him, so he's timed that well in terms of what he needs out of this race. Actually, I just want to point out Jose Serpa for a moment, who was the first taker down onto the lane. He's behind Alex Ahuya here in 14th place, so that's a huge issue for Jose Serpa. He is the biggest loser, and in fact, Ahuya has a big moment through turn 1, and Serpa may have a chance to go and get the move done, as in comes Danilo Sanfilippo.
Yeah, so Danilo's clearly reacted to what Chris Owen has done, so we'll see what the pit stop difference is here and whether Danilo is going to be able to jump the car of Chris Owen. Is just coming through the final sector now, turn 10, 11, in that sort of area. Sanfilippo still travelling down the lane and into his box, so this is going to be reasonably close here.
Well, we're going to see through the final chicane and along towards this final corner of New Holland, on the power as much as you can. Pretty much more tamed as Piotrowski dives down in onto the lane, and I think he's got it here, ladies and gentlemen. Danilo Sanfilippo's got it by a fair margin, and that's worth noting. Danilo Sanfilippo has jumped Chris Owen by a couple seconds at least.
Yeah, the pit stop difference was at least a second. 7.4 stopped and 25.7 lane time for Danilo Sanfilippo. Compare that to the 26.5 lane time for Chris Owen and an 8.7 stop for Chris Owen. So yeah, that's a big difference that Sanfilippo's had, but Chris Owen not winning any battles out of that.
Side by side, Serpa and Ahuya out on track. So here comes the move on the brakes into turn number 1. Move made. So Jose Serpa gets it all done. Marco Sanfilippo staying out there on track, but Ahuya is not giving this one up too easily right now. Trying to stay with Serpa. It is a battle between these two Iberians going at it at the moment, and at the moment, it seems like it is Serpa who is better placed after that move.
Yes, certainly, and it seems that now this early stop is possibly starting to help Serpa just a little bit, although clearly has lost out quite a lot considering Jane Thurlow and that are still fair ways up the road, but nevertheless we'll see what happened. And Matthew Howard has actually lost out a little bit here to the cars of Andreas Nielsen here, who's still yet to pit, but nevertheless hasn't really had all that quick of a stop.
Well, there he goes. So in comes Nielsen, and there's Jody Mills just behind, who is trying to stay within a range here of Matthew Howard. He's 1.2 seconds back, took a tenth off of him last time by. So good work at the moment, but needing to find more consistent pace. Someone who is, it's Clayton McLeod. He's done a 121.2 that last time by. Of course, the fuel is the biggest margin for what changes a lot in these sorts of races. So we'll see how this one all plays out. Out of the way goes Andreas Nielsen, as Adam Webb is also down on the lane. He gets himself away. Nielsen is going to come out here with John Pat Kelly. I think he's going to jump him here in the stop. They were fighting close together, and so Nielsen jumps John Pat Kelly. Adam Webb comes up behind Esteban Oliveira by a long distance. The race leader is in, Marco Sanfilippo, for his one and only scheduled stop.
Yeah, so Marco left that a little bit longer than everybody else just to try and get a little bit of an undercut, and it looks like it's going to be a really quick stop actually. Pretty much the same sort of time as his brother was, so Sanfilippo 1-2 at the moment and pretty much bang on equal pit stop times.
Bang on equal, and they've done so well. Clayton McLeod also dives down in onto the lane as one of the last takers. Get the fuel gone. So at the moment, Marco Sanfilippo with a big margin over brother Danilo, looking for a 1-2 finish. That would be so special. But Clayton McLeod down on the jacks then. He will get himself going. He will look to get himself off and away shortly. Piotrowski making his way forward at this moment. McLeod will be beaten by Piotrowski. What about Jaden Thurlow, though? This is going to be the key. Up to speed you need to go. Thurlow's going to go through, but crucially ahead of Jose Serpa, so staying out longer. Clayton McLeod has done it again. He gains more places here in the stops. Serpa finds himself shuffled out to 10th place overall. Clayton McLeod finds himself now in 9th position and will look to try and chase down 8th and 7th if possible, but it's going to be a tall order here today.
Yeah, it certainly is, although he's got slightly fresher tyres than Thurlow, remember, and he's come out in a reasonably nice place with a little bit of clean air, not too much dirty air in terms of the distance between the two of them, so might be an advantage here, but nonetheless.
Well, look at this. Cudmore, Giori, and Jan Shatinsky letting both Cudmore and Giori through for position. So this is a case of a few struggles here and there. Cudmore's going to dive down onto the lane, but Giori and Shatinsky fighting for position. It looks like the rear wing is not working very well here at the moment, as currently what we're looking at right now. Cudmore diving in for the lane. It has been a sordid performance as this, as look at Jody Mills here. He's actually really close, 0.6 of a second and a bit.
Yeah, he's actually closing in on the car of Matthew Howard as Jody Mills, and he's done a fantastic job to actually close that gap as well, considering Matthew Howard pitted slightly later from memory. So we'll see what happens here and whether there's going to be possibly a move on.
Well, Jody Mills is trying to give it absolutely everything. It was a 21-2 that last time by from Mills, a 21-6 from Matt Howard. So Howard's got to work hard then in the final stage if he wants to continue on this 4th place result. Remember, he's on 800 points, and this result here, 4th place, this will give him at least 150 of them to move him right up the table here and really showcase what he's all about. There's a big haul of iRacing points that are going to be coming along from this event that he'll be very happy about. Of course, we can't talk about safety rating and instant points because we don't have the permutations and the permissions to do so here, being an iRacing official event. But what we can say is that a lot of these drivers have a lot of clean air at the moment, and this is one of the closest battles out on track. Jody Mills, though, sees a mistake from Howard. He runs wide, too wide through that chicane, and suddenly he gets cramped on the inside, and they'll be side by side all the way down the front stretch.
that very close moment there for Jody Mills, nearly putting it in the wall. Had to do a bit of opposite lock, and Howard's going to go defensive here, trying to break the draft from Jody Mills. Mills going to look to the inside, but decides better of it to sit behind. So that's position Howard for Matthew Howard, barely.
Well, look who's behind them. Ding dong. It's Stefan Chantal in 6th place, and he's 1.1 back. 21.3 that last time by. Look how much those mistakes cost those two drivers. A second and a second and a half each. That's how much they're starting to trip over each other here, and this is where Chantal needs to strike.
Yes, certainly does, and going to be on for a top 5 as Chantal can get the pace out of the car very much and hold on to these two ahead of him, and hopefully the two ahead of him start battling and he'll be rubbing his hands together once again. But Piotrowski is not too far behind as well, so one of the two ahead, or one of the three actually, make a mistake just ahead of him, he'll be able to take advantage of that, but probably going to be a little bit too far back to try and get a move done naturally.
Well, he's 8 seconds down the road, so that's going to be tough here, and that's only compared to Chantal, as the fastest lap of the day is Marco Sanfilippo, absolutely waltzing away. 1:20.1. That is 0.6 quicker than his brother at the moment, who is trying to fend off GRIFFIOEN, who's trying to go quick, and he's got 3 seconds to hold on to. So that's a mega time by Marco Sanfilippo. But Howard and Mills and Chantal all closing up, as is this one, Clayton McLeod, reaching the rear of Jaden Thurlow.
It certainly is, and he's really not making it easy as Thurlow. He's trying everything he possibly can to hold it off McLeod and the likes of, but McLeod pushing on to try and close this gap down. McLeod slightly quicker that last time by, but not a lot, and it's not going to be really enough to try and get on by at this stage.
Well, it's all about getting close enough, and these corners are not conducive to these style of vehicles. A lot of middle speed corners with long radiuses, and it's pretty much almost like a designer like Herman Tilke, for example, just took their glass when they just tried to design this circuit, Cam. They drew around it a whole bunch of times and said, here you go, that's a racetrack.
Yes, certainly. It's one of those tracks where you go, it's a pretty much a whole bunch of squiggly lines, and this is the racetrack. So, yeah, it's a really interesting circuit, and it's actually really, really fun to drive around. A little bit difficult to race around in terms of cars with the aero when you've got the likes of aero push involved in that, but nevertheless, really, really a good circuit.
Really strong circuit as well. That's why it's been on the Formula One calendar for a very, very long time in retrospect. So we'll see how all these drivers now deal with finishing stages of this race. We're on lap 32 of 44. There's 13 laps to go here at Catalunya, the circuit of Barcelona-Catalunya, and it's the battle for 5th and 6th, which has the biggest eyes on it at the moment. Howard and Mills and Chantal, and they're all sort of running into their own lines at the moment, and they're following each other quite well. Howard is dictating the pace, almost like a conductor at this moment in time. Nobody is really in a position to strike and pounce.
Yeah, no one's really in an obvious place to try and get a move done. Obviously, everybody's somewhat close, but it's just going to be a matter of mistakes. Thurlow's made one, and now McLeod's going to look up the inside with the fact that Thurlow's run just slightly wide there. Thurlow's going to have to try and hold on to the position, but McLeod's going to have the inside for the next corner, and that's a position gain.
That came out of relative nowhere. Thurlow pushing a little bit too hard. Got the grass on the outside. Had to keep the car straight. Had to lift off the throttle. Lost all the run into turn number 5 of Elf. And just like that, well, you need a bit of pixie dust sometimes to get these moves done. And Clayton McLeod's done it, and we've got it on the Motum Simulation replay.
Yeah, you can just see in the replay that Thurlow just caught the grass ever so slightly on the exit. It ran a little bit deep as well, and just nearly ended up in the wall. He dropped the right left rear, and you can see a lot of possible risk, but it's not over at the moment, and they're still going at it onto the front straight. Thurlow's going to have a nice draft down the front straight. Is McLeod going to go defensive? That is the question. He does not by the looks of it. So Thurlow going to look to the inside of McLeod here down into turn number 1, but thinks better of it.
Well, he just hit the brick wall, so to speak, and then could not find any pace. And look at how aggressive McLeod is through the opening section of corners. He pulled out a good 2/10 on Thurlow alone through that section, if not more. The battle 4th, 5th and 6th has now closed up even more here on Matthew Howard. 21-3, 21-3, 21-3. all of them as they race up turn number 9, a blind right-hander before they get themselves towards turn 10. And this modified section of track, it's almost like they bisected there, the section at turn 10. I did love that old left-hand corner on the likes of F1 Career Challenge 99 to 02, that game made by EA Sports. But you look at this battle going on between these three right now. They come into the right chicane, it's close.
Yeah, it certainly is. But both Thurlow and McLeod, they're just making a mistake going deep into the corner, and they pretty much both ran wide. McLeod coming off second best in that, but nevertheless, Thurlow all over the back end. You can see he's trying everything he can, and he's run to the back of him.
Wow, McLeod straight into the wall, and he knew he needed more than 11th place to gain himself some results. There goes through Jose Serpa, and all of a sudden, I wonder how much damage he's got from burying himself into the wall. It looks like he's okay from that. These vehicles are sturdy, made of carbon fiber, of course, but ultimately, that was a very, very clumsy bit of driving between the pair.
Yeah, certainly was. We'll get a replay of that, and just a really unfortunate incident there. I think Thurlow might have just got away with that one. Doesn't look like the front wing's got too much damage on it at all, but it's going to be really possibly struggling in a straight line now, and possibly through the high speed sections as well with that a little bit of front wing damage is possible to have.
Well, that's going to be crucial in terms of the way this has gone, of course. Jody Mills now looking more defensive than offensive at this moment in time in his battle. You've also got this one right down the order here, Cam. Esteban Oliveira in a battle with one Adam Webb, who wants to get through into 14th place. These two drivers, though, are going to soon be under pressure because Marco Sanfilippo is soon going to be approaching and putting both of them a lap down before the end of this event.
Yeah, so instead of having 10 laps to go, they're going to eventually have 9 laps to go now till the end of the race. And Webb running very wide there, actually clipped the cone, and he's got a slowdown by the looks of it. So that battle has been pretty much cancelled out by the fact that that's a mistake from Webb.
Absolutely, and that is going to hurt a lot in the fact that he couldn't get that one going through the corner nicely enough at the moment. So now you've got to really look at Jody Mills here. He's stuck in Schrodinger's overtake. He must attack and he must defend at the same time. And look at what's in front of them. The lap traffic of Steve Giori. He played a pivotal factor in Chris Owen's decision. Will he play a similar factor for Howard, Mills and Chantal?
Yeah, that is definitely the big question as to whether or not this is going to play into the hands of Chantal and those behind Howard at the moment. But obviously, Giori going to probably get out of the way as soon as he possibly can to try not hold up those behind him. But nevertheless, Howard's going to be the first one to have to worry about is the aero wash that he's going to encounter. But Chantal doing a really good job holding him to the back of Mills here and setting up a move.
Well, he's going to try and set this one up, but of course the draft from Giori is going to completely negate any chance they head through this section. Giori's probably going to pull over to one side here and let these drivers through, and just like that, on cue, everybody serpentines to the inside like it's the Indy 500 on iRacing, which will be shown tomorrow on Race Spot TV and the iRacing Esports Network. Make sure you check that out, of course, with all our good friends over there. But crucially enough, it's going to be a case of, again, I'm stuck, I can't make the move, I have nothing that I can do in terms of getting what I want out of this race, and ultimately, the front three are in a class of their own. They are a full 20 seconds ahead of 4th place at the moment, and that's with Chris Owen being 5 seconds behind Danilo Sanfilippo right now.
Yes, certainly the top three have really been in a class of their own all race long and have pretty much had their own little fight going on. Obviously, Danilo Sanfilippo managing to get ahead of Chris Owen, who was running in second for so long until that pit stop phase, but nevertheless, it's been all about just outside that top three because it's been going on for pretty much since lap 1 for the rest of the field.
Well, look at Andreas Nielsen's time because he's done a 20.9 that last time by. He's found something in the car where Alex Ojuya has not. He did a 22.4 that last time by. So that is a big swing. That's at least a whole second. 20.9, 21, that's a second and a half that he's lost there as Alex Ojuya. The gap down to 0.6 of a second. Andreas Nielsen wants to get by. He wants 11th place. Wide goes Ojuya through the corner, struggling to put the power down. All of a sudden, it's pretty much what time do you jump the gun and say, all runners advance?
Yes, certainly. It is all about timing that very, very well and making the choice to go rather than sit behind all that much more important. There's still reasonable number of laps to go, about 7 odd laps to go, or 8 laps to go, depending on where you are on track. But nevertheless, it's really just going to be all about timing it well and making sure you get that pass done as early as you possibly can.
Well, that's going to be the key here. Who's going to be in position to get those passes working out on the road? And at the moment, it is Marco Sanfilippo who has made all of everything work. And look at the consistency. 20.183 followed up by 20.186. That's how much he's pushing around this race. But look at Nielsen. He's absolutely pushing, and he's got around the outside of turn 4, inside 5. He's got the move done, and that was well done. He did it at the inside of 4, switch back to the outside. Did not work there for Alex Ahuya. And all of a sudden, you can see Andreas Nielsen desperate to push forward. There's a lap down Jan Stratinsky, and the battle in front starting to get a little bit spicy, because this is McLeod and Serpa fighting for 9th and 10th.
Yeah, and Serpa's obviously pitted a lot earlier than McLeod is, so his tyres are going to be on the little bit less optimal side compared to McLeod's, but nevertheless, he's going to push on and try and hold on to this position as Sir Jose Serpa, but McLeod possibly carrying a little bit of damage, remember, after that contact with Thurlow early on, so we'll see what happens here and whether there's any possible struggle from McLeod, but he seems to be doing okay considering.
Exactly, and that's going to be the key here. You've got to be considering to do okay around this place, and he's using the toe to his advantage right now on the run towards turn number 1. Not in position this lap. May have to wait for Lekaiser at turn 10, or maybe even next lap. And look at this. He's going to try and attack turn 3. Oh, Serpa had to leave in the room there. That was deep from Clayton McLeod, and he's got the move done on a bit of genius there through that section. You do not find many moves like that. McLeod had pretty much set him up, and he took the fall pretty much like an actor would.
Yeah, absolutely. He set that one up an absolute pearler to Clayton McLeod to get that position just centered in there, lick the stamp and center as Daniel Ricciardo normally would, and managed to put it up there. Oh, and a little bit of a mistake there from McLeod, so Jose Serpa's going to come back at McLeod here to try and get this position back, but not going to be quite close enough this time behind his next few corners.
Well, that's going to be the key here. They do have, of course, Thurlow just in front. So at this point in time, they are starting to look at laps here, and it's going to get close in the next few stages. You can see they're on board. Then there's a little pull flap that's just flicking about there in the wind as they go through in towards the chicanes. And a little bit of grass kicked up by McLeod. He knows what he needs to do. Jose Serpa, both of these drivers need to score some points, because there are drivers like Matthew Howard, for example, here, Cam, who'll be picking up 150 points and moving within 100 of them.
Yeah, certainly, and that's a lot of points considering where he gets the championship as well. So he'll be really relishing at the fact that he's going to gain so many points and move so far up the order. But nevertheless, Jose Serpa still trying his best to close this gap down to Clayton McLeod, but Clayton McLeod has started extending that gap.
Oh my word. Oh my word. Fastest lap, Marco Sanfilippo, 1:19.7. You don't need to say any more.
Definitely do not need to say much more. Not far off qualifying pace as well, only about half a second or so, but nevertheless, Marco putting on an absolutely dominant performance all race long.
Well, he is absolutely flying, but Matthew Howard's lost the position to Jody Mills. This is crucial in terms of that. We saw the fastest lap, but there has been a mistake from Howard. Where has this one happened then? Out on track. It was 2-1. An issue for Marco Sanfilippo. Here is it, as we just seen. Has he just had a moment? He has. He's run into Edverson Oliveira, who'd gone around down at turn 5, and Marco, who'd seen that in front, had a spin, ran the back in like Liuzzi almost did into the yellow crane at the 2007 European Grand Prix, and ultimately Marco just about gets away with it scot-free.
Yeah, if he did make contact, it was very, very light, and he might have just got away with that very luckily. So if he did get away with it, he's a very lucky boy at the moment to not end up with any more damage than he possibly could have. But that's really going to have brought Danilo a little bit closer. It's not going to be a lot, but it's probably going to be just enough at the moment.
Well, Marco Sanfilippo's lost a couple seconds of his margin, but it's worth noting as well, Matthew Howard did lose the position to Jody Mills. That was done at turn number 1, so Mills now up into 4th position. The gap is down to 8.8 seconds at the front. Marco Sanfilippo's lost 3 seconds on that issue, but crucially enough, there are 4 laps to go, and he will hit his rhythm. And the good news for Marco is that it's John Pat Kelly next on the road, and John Pat Kelly is probably one of the most trusted drivers can ever race again.
Yes, certainly he is, and you can always be sure that John Pat Kelly is going to give you a fair and clean fight, that's for sure.
Absolutely. Jaden Thurlow, though, has lost the position to Clayton McLeod, and that's going to be key. So Jaden Thurlow now dropping a position, and McLeod's done that one on the back end of last lap. So that was done by a slow-down penalty, it seemed, by Jaden Thurlow, who had to hit the brakes and decided to let him go through, unless he's had one of those big moments where the fuel numbers aren't quite what they need to be. He's still going right now, but Jose Serpa pretty much looming in the background, thinking, you know what, I wouldn't mind 9th place. That would be really nice for me to gain maybe 15, 20 points on where I am right now in the championship.
Yes, certainly, and every little point's just going to help you that ever so slight amount, even if it just counters a terrible drop round that you've got, it's going to help you that little bit much more to try and chip away at the drivers ahead of you, or hold a slight gap to those behind you, especially with how close it's been in this championship all season long, and the fact that one little mistake costs you quite a lot as well.
Well, that's going to be the key here. Drivers all looking for a bit more. 3 laps to go here at this event at the Circuit de Barcelona-Catalunya. And remember, in 1 week's time, ladies and gentlemen, it is the second of 2 100% race distance events at Monza. That's going to be key. 53 laps around there. That's going to go by in the blink of an eye, but it's going to be the fastest race on the calendar. And these drivers know they've got to really radically change their setups between what is a downforce track like it is here at Barcelona compared to what is a high-speed, I would say, masterclass for the circuit at what is the temple of speed.
Yes, certainly. It's going to be a very radical change for all these drivers to go from such a high-ish downforce track to one where you're going to be trimming the thing out to the point where you're basically relying entirely on the tyres and mechanical grip, really. So it's going to make the change quite a dramatic one for a lot of these drivers, and possibly going to see various mistakes from different drivers, possibly just not quite being used to the such a massive change. But nevertheless, it's going to be a very, very good race. Draft is going to be the biggest factor there, and fuel saving is really going to come into its own there as well. So looking forward to it, seeing who ends up coming out on top.
Couple of laps to go. You still got Serpa versus Thurlow, and as well Howard versus Chantal. Chantal was dropping back, but Matthew Howard, I think, is starting to struggle a little bit here in the latter stages of this race. Chantal not close enough, and he gets a wiggle coming out of the final corner cam. That's going to compromise the run.
Yeah, it certainly is. It's not going to be too ideal to be making mistakes this late in the race, especially with the gap that you've got to the driver ahead, especially for Chantal, who's been pushing hard for so long. It's about 3 tenths quicker that last time by compared to Matthew Howard. So clearly some pace in that car of Stefan Chantal, but he's only got 2 laps to go, and that time is running out to try and get the move done.
Exactly, and they know those 2 laps are going to be crucial. It's all about putting the laps together. You take it 1 corner at a time from here. You know, every corner, okay, this lap, can I just make sure that I'm hitting my markers, hitting my apexes, and making sure I'm getting through every single corner? The last lap now will start for Marco Sanfilippo at this moment in time, lap 44 of 44, as he makes his way past John Pat Kelly to get himself a lap down here in this race. McLeod has not fallen away, and all of a sudden on the back of Jose Serpa and co is Andreas Nielsen, who has been running lap times in the 120s, and he has been motoring to get himself back into this. So that's something key to look at right now. Also, Chantal falling off the back of Howard, unless there's a massive mistake coming along from Howard in the 16 machine. There is no way that Chantal is going to find a way through, but it's now Andreas Nielsen who is looking like he is closest to making the overtake through the left-hander of Lakaitsa. He's just not there, but look at how much better he is through these corners. He's closing right up through these sections of road as he makes his way into the final sector. Someone else who is Marco Sanfilippo, of course, and he knows what he needed to do today. With no Mark Usher for this round, he had to take maximum priority on the results. Every single result had to count, and here at Barcelona, he has made sure he has. The heart was in the mouth a little bit a few laps ago, but he has survived the panic attack, he survived the heart attack, and now he'll come through the final corner and win here at Barcelona to take the championship lead to Monza. Danilo Sanfilippo will make it a Sanfilippo 1-2 finish, and it will be Chris Owen who will come home for a well-needed third place to re-kickstart his season off that he desperately needs. Back to the battle between Serpa and Nielsen for the top 10, and Nielsen is stuck, Cam.
Yeah, Nielsen just can't quite find a way on by and runs a little bit deep there into the corner as well, so that's going to allow the car of Serpa to try and get on by, but Howard's lost a spot here to Stephen Chantal, so something's happened to Howard here.
Turn 12, trying to put the power down, back steps out, big slide as he just drifts through the off-camber nature of that corner, and Matthew Howard will rue that one. That's 6th place only after starting 4th, and really he should have been on for that 4th place finish. He had all the pace to showcase that, but 2 small mistakes have cost him that one. Come the end, likes McLeod over the line, Thurlow will hold off, Serpa will hold off Nielsen as they'll make that push. And here's the final driver coming to the line. Alex Aguirre will now finish in 12th place overall, but official classified results, well, they're going to be as follows right now. So it will be Marco Sanfilippo who picks up the win in 59 minutes and 42 seconds. He wins by 11.2 over Danilo Sanfilippo in second. It's a brothers 1-2. And of course, in Formula 1 terms, that's very rarely happened. I think it's only ever happened once in Formula 1 history between Michael and Ralph. Chris Owen will come home in third with Jody Mills, a full 20 seconds adrift of Owen there in 4th place, with Stefan Chantal picking up freebies from Matthew Howard, who comes home in 6th place. 7th would go on a quiet drive for Stefan PIOTROWSKI there, who finishes on his own, with Clayton McLeod in 8th place there, up 4 places. Jaden Thurlow, your biggest mover and shaker, he gained 8 places in the race today to come home with 9th, and Jose Serpa dropping 2 after the earliest stop of everyone. He gets a top 10.
Just outside the top 10 and nearly had a top 10 finish was Andreas Nielsen in 11th, 12th to Alex Uea and the final driver on the lead lap as well. John Pat Kelly comes home in 13th, Estevan Oliveira in 14th, running at the top 15, Ray Griffioen, and we go back to Adam Webb, Steve Giori, Jan Strutinsky, your final finishes, followed by your DNFs, David Cudmore, Jan Hoffman and Nicholas Short.
That is the 21 cars that made this field, and this was a strong race. Needed points to be scored from it, but 100% race distance next time when they head to Monza. And what's going to be crucial about that Monza race is it is going to feel a lot more, really, Cam, than it would like one of these 2/3 race distance events, because of the fact that tyre wear is not going to be as big of an issue. It's really large braking zones into low priority corners, rights and left. So really you're going to feel with these tyres, they're not really going to be worked as much. There's maybe only 3 corners on that track, which can really give the tyres a good workout.
Yes, certainly it is. It's mostly slow-speed chicanes where you're crawling in the likes of first and second gear, more or less, apart from the other 3 corners that you speak of, where the tyres more properly get a workout. It's really all about just making sure you've got that low-speed grip and ability to come off the corner, because that's going to be your biggest problem. If you don't have the rear tyres or you don't have the rear grip, you're really going to be in P nowhere.
Exactly, and you can catch that in 1 week's time here on SimSpeed TV as we take to round 10 of the championship. But that's not all that we've got here coming up for you, because, of course, Monday nights are, of course, your V8 nights, and it's going to be a crucial battle between James Scott and Madison Down. You do not want to miss that one going on out on the track. And, of course, there is so much that happens over the course of these weeks. You've got ATTC, Scops comes up and about and does some brilliant stuff. The Geodesic Championship has been fantastic. You've got VRSGT, you've got the likes of your NASCAR racing that goes on. Everything is fantastic when it comes to SimSpeed, and the only way you can catch out most of those races, so like, share and subscribe here to the SimSpeed TV page. But, of course, a massive thanks has to go to Motum Simulations, who have helped sponsor with the replays. And, of course, with Jay Kennedy on the cameras, that's been Cam Dance also on my left-hand side. I've been Jake Sperry, and Marco Sanfilippo, saved for a scare, has got himself the result he needed. The championship lead that he has wanted for a very long time. And now it's time for him to try and build up momentum. It's home territory next for for the Sanfilippos. We'll catch you in 1 week's time as we head to the Temple of Speed.
This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's going the outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson. Anderson's up to
Oh
him.
my God! Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled.
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, there we go. Oh no, that's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh my God.
God, what?